Hello and welcome to The Final Bell, the official Geelong Cats podcast. It is great to have you this week. Perhaps not the week we exactly wanted, but we've still got plenty to talk about. There's lots to pick apart from the game against the Dockers and a lot to look forward to heading into this week back at home at GMHBA Stadium. We are this week again brought to you by our friends at Morris, Personal Finance Solutions, expert advice and finance specialists all in one place. We really appreciate the support of Morris, able to bring the podcast to you and talk about all things Cats. And as I am every single week, I'm joined by Meg McDonald. Meg Mac,
hey
good
Lee,
to see
how
you.
Are you?
Again, I just love saying Meg Mac.
Oh, no, it's good. I actually thought we might just 2 losses in a row. What have we got to talk about? But you say we've got plenty to talk about, so that's good. Stay positive. I've realised in the last fortnight I really get invested in things, and the sense of control you have as a player is so helpful when you're a spectator. I don't manage it well. I need to get better. I really need to get better.
That is what we love about you, though.
Oh, the
fully
passion.
invested in the passion. But yeah, you do quickly realise you can't do much when you're sitting there. But you really feel like you can, though. If I barrack in a certain way.
Go and get a cup of tea and leave the room for 5 minutes, it'll make all the difference.
Yes, it might change the momentum. We're going to get to your questions a little bit later on in the show. We love interacting with all of our listeners. We love the questions. We love the feedback, so please keep them coming. As I said, we're going to talk about the game coming up against the GWS Giants this week at GMHBA Stadium. We'll touch on the VFLW. No VFL game this week. They had the bye. But let's go straight into it, shall we? Not a great result. And when you look at the game and you even just go straight to the stats sheet, unfortunately, look at a Dockers midfield that just had the ascendancy for most of the game, controlled the footy. We were unable to get our hands on the footy and get any real flow going. Surprisingly, though, even without that flow, still felt like we were in the game for big patches of time. But in the end, Freo just kicked away and pretty comfortable.
Yeah, they did. I totally agree with you. I think in comparison to the week before, like you look at the different three-quarter times and I thought this week I was like, I think we'll win. Or at least going into the second half, I thought, you know what? I think we've got enough upside here and I think we're in it. We've got a few players returning, hitting the score sheet. But yeah, they just ran over the top. How did you feel? I know the possessions and the stat sheet, as you say, was a topic of conversation in the post-match. Do you put much stock in it?
No. Sometimes I don't buy into the stats.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just think they don't paint the realistic picture, and the eye test is a better one. Then there's sometimes where you just think, yeah, it probably does. Yeah. And when and again, it's not about numbers only, Meg, but when our highest possession winner on the field is 19 disposals, and Tanner Bruin was that, and Zach Tui was that, and I thought Tanner Bruin was excellent. We'll talk about him in a second. And then you look at Freo and you see Brayshaw with 33 disposals and a goal, Caleb Sarong with 28 touches and a goal, Jager O'Meara with 26 touches, Aish and Young and all these players. I think that paints a very clear picture that they were in control through the middle part of the ground. Funnily enough, those possessions weren't necessarily leading to high inside 50s.
Yes, yeah.
But when they did get through, they seemed to get through a little easy. And there was, again, the opposition scored 100 points on us. And there was an ability to score with limited inside 50s that was a little worrying, I would say.
Yeah, I thought their finishing in front of goal was really, elite. And I think they just had us, I don't know, I feel like they had us on the ground inside their 50 compared to our D50. So I think it can be really, and it can be challenging. I look at Stewie there and I think, gosh, it's hard to lead from that position when you're, he's captaining at the moment. He's such an incredible player for us, but then the weight of score that's coming down is hard to then, if you've got part of your focus then on what's going on, why is this happening, how are we going, and then you've got your own performance to go with it, it can just be, it can be quite challenging. So I sort of felt for him there.
Well, even the truly greatest players, and Tom Stewart is quickly becoming one of those with his wonderful career he's having so far. When the ball is coming down dangerously,
Yeah.
and the ball is coming down, and the opposition team is scoring from it, naturally you feel that heat, you feel that pressure. I mean, the great Matty Scarlett would often talk to me about even when he would take up the most proactive position, he'd think, okay, I want to cut this angle. I know the ball's going to come here. But then another goal is against them. You just go back to, actually, maybe I'll just go back behind my opponent and let him make the first move and then try and close the gap. Yeah. And it becomes reactive instead of proactive. It's a natural tendency, isn't it?
Yeah, totally it is. And I think, it makes you realise how important system is and the things that you come to expect from having certain players in the team, and not to like the coach did post game, not to overstate the people that are missing from the lineup, but they have a real material impact on the game and how the ball's either going forwards out of the centre or it's going backwards, and then your whole style is impacted from then.
And Freo have captured their better form now. They've been building for a couple of weeks, and I felt they were very, very good. I mentioned Tanner Bruin. Again, another step forward in his, at the moment, very young career. He showed the outstanding glimpses at the end of the Adelaide Crows game a couple of weeks ago where he really grabbed the game in the last 7 or 8 minutes. He's been building across a midfield that was beaten. He felt like, again, he could hold his head up really high.
And, hit the scoreboard again. I think he's hit the scoreboard in consecutive, kicked a goal last 4 weeks.
Definitely,
maybe.
Yep.
Is that something?
Kicked a brilliant goal last week against the Tigers. And
great goal last week. This one was from a 50-metre penalty, but you still got to finish.
It's in the book as a goal.
Yeah. No, he was playing really well. And speaking of players that it was great to see out there and not focus too much on the ones that weren't, I mean, to see Jack Henry back and Tyson Stengel back and have them kick 4 goals between them was really good. It's pretty good to be able to take one Henry out and plug another one in and have them have impact. But they'll, continue to get better. To think that 2 goals on their return is, not their best yet is positive.
It's pretty cool when you think about the way players are prepared now coming back. I mean, in days gone by, it would be they'll be super scratchy for a couple of weeks, especially a long layoff like Jack has had. He probably won't get near it for a week or 2, but we'll be able to carry that because we know he's best. To have an immediate impact, as you said, still with their best ahead of them, is pretty impressive. The way they're prepared, obviously the conditioning and the work that they do so they can hit the ground running. They are the first couple of hopefully a number of players coming back in the next few weeks. I think Chris Scott said after the game that Paddy Dangerfield, Gary Rowan, Sam de Koning and maybe even Cam Guthrie are very, very close for either this week or next week. It does make a difference. In footy, we say you can't make excuses. Everyone has injuries. Yeah. But naturally, if you're missing 3, 4, 5, 6 of your best 22, it has an impact.
Of course, especially, as we say, around that middle of the ground. And it's not to say that, as you say, players, the younger brigade who we've spoken so highly of in recent weeks, it's not that they're lacking anything. You just at a different stage in your career. And I look at, like Isaac Smith we've noted he kicked his 200th goal on the weekend, and the maturity in his performance to sort of, I think, rise above whatever the standard of the team is or however it's going and execute comes with playing lots more footy. Yeah. And that's what sort of we're missing in the team a bit at the moment. I saw Cam on Saturday, walked into the gym after our sort of a little running session, and there he was in the gym, and I was like, oh, I wish you were in Perth.
I'm sure he wished he was in Perth as well.
Well, I didn't say that to him.
You're right, though. You look at, say, a Mitch Nevitt and Maxi Holmes, and I hesitate to pick individual players out. But learning to go on the road and travel interstate.
You flagged it last week.
Yeah, it's a learned behaviour. You need to understand how you prepare at an interstate game. It is different. You're not doing your normal thing. You're not sleeping in your own bed. And then a really hostile crowd. And then a team that's playing well and getting on top of you and is scoring and it's not quite working for you. How you work through that. Now, they didn't have their greatest games, but that's part of a journey of them becoming, when you hit 80 games and 100 games, 120, and you've got an X amount of interstate games under your belt at that point, you still play great footy interstate. And Isaac Smith played a hell of a lot more
Yes,
than
of course.
them. But yeah, he knows, okay, well, I know when we land, I'm going to do this. I know not to overeat in the buffet.
Yeah.
I know I'm not.
I doubt he does.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm going to wake up at the same time, or I'm going to. It's funny. Sorry to go on about this, but even with the Perth trips, different players will choose to shift to a certain time
jet
zone.
Lag.
Yeah, so I stayed in Vic time. That was my prep. So whatever time the game was, it was a 4:35 Victorian time. Well, I just treated everything like I was on Vic time.
Yeah.
Others would shift to Perth time.
Yeah.
So the game was at 2:35 for them.
And who played better?
Oh, well, I'd normally have them covered, but no. No, but I think as a whole group, that individual way of going about things meant that your individual preparation was what it was based on the way that you best prepared for an interstate game, and you all came together and played as a team, and we had a good interstate record. Towards the end, early on in my career, I don't know what I was doing. It might have been midnight for all I knew when I was first went over to Perth. Yeah. So that's part of some of these younger players' development.
Yeah, and I think, as much as we are talking about the, the way we're not at the top of our game at the moment, we're not, you can stay pretty positive, I think. You're in the top 8, you've got a challenging block of games ahead, but there's, again, things to like and things to be reassured about going forwards, I think.
Well, that's a big one, isn't it? You mentioned that challenging block. So the next 4 games, Giants this week at GMHBA Stadium, and I want to talk a little bit about what's happening around that with Sir Doug Nicholls Round in just a second. But Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, and the Demons. 3 teams
They're all
in
flying,
very
aren't
good
they?
form.
Not to talk about another team on the podcast, but that Port Adelaide performance was very impressive. I know, but you're going to be up for it. You say perhaps the team changes a little bit, but the existing team is going okay, and they'll know where they need to improve.
I see that sort of block as a really good resetting of, okay, now what makes us a good team?
Yep.
What made us a good team last year, but now what makes us a good team this year? And we're going to be tested against some really good football teams. So let's go back to that, understand that, and get back to our very best footy to get on a little run, hopefully.
Totally, and you're tested by the opposition and the time of the year. You're in that winter period where training's hard, games are hard, you're a bit sore, it's cold, and if you can come through that period and thinking we don't just play great footy in September when the sun's shining, we're a strong, hard team who gets it done in the meaty, chunky part of the season.
Yeah, right through the middle of winter, absolutely. Right. Remiss of us not to mention Mark Blitzarves and Tommy Hawkins both played really good games in what ultimately was a disappointing result for the Cats. Heading into this game, Meg, the Giants at GMHBA Stadium as part of the 2 weeks of Sir Doug Nicholls Round, which is outstanding. Dream time at the G, again, to talk about a different game. What a brilliant night, an incredible environment, a wonderful celebration, and then backed up with a phenomenal game of footy.
Yeah, I've only seen the last 2 minutes, to be honest, but it's obviously a fantastic round to celebrate, and we'll get our turn to host this weekend. We've got the I know we're on a podcast, so it's difficult to
but we're also
for the listeners to see, but you can log on to YouTube.
YouTube as well, Meg. Yep, there's the jumper. You know more about this than I do. Please, design. Tell us the story.
So Michelle Searle has designed this. She's a Wabakal woman who currently lives in Geelong. She, of course, the boys wore the inverted colours of this one in Perth, but this is the original design that we'll be wearing this week. I know it's called Strength Through Unity. It's about everyone coming together and sharing the land. We've got in the circle, we've got that representation of coming together and not only sharing the land, but sharing knowledge, food, different experiences and learning from one another. Lower on the design, we've got the different journeys and different pathways through life. Everybody has a different journey. Everybody can take different twists and turns and learn from one another. But it is our core roots and our core values, which is really important. That's from Michelle. And the bands across the middle, they're the waves of emotion, but also waves of support that we wrap around one another and support each other. So I thought the jumper looked incredible in Perth. This one's going to look even better at home, and I know it's being worn by every team in our footy program. So as you said, VFL had a bye this weekend. VFLW will wear the jumper, and we'll get to wear the jumper during our season. So it's a great highlight of the year, and I hope they play well in it.
Yes, let's hope. And we got to speak to Matty Stokes last week.
Yes. I was surprised you turned up today, actually. I thought he might have just... He did pretty well. I was like, we'll just get him on.
As the host, it was great to have Matty Stokes on, but he spoke a bit about what's happening around the game as well. Some wonderful celebrations are going to be here at GMHBA Stadium. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we've got our Geelong program participants. They'll be involved in Auskick. They'll be in the Guard of Honour. We'll have the Welcome to Country, and we'll have a Budgerah performance at halftime, which is... an incredible thing for the club. Again, to have Stokesy sponsoring the performance is a fantastic, he's a fantastic supporter of the club and a great advocate for First Nations people, and his story to continue to give back and come full circle is so special that he's part of Geelong. So looking forward to that one. Got to sort the ticks out.
And I just quickly add, but also just sending out a lot of love and support to Stokesy, who's just going through a bit with his family at the moment. So we absolutely cherish you, Stokesy. So hopefully you're okay, mate. Please pass on our best to all of your family at the moment. The VFLW. Quickly, Meg, before we do have to take a break, an absolute thriller. What a way to finish a game, taking down the Bombers by 2 points in the end, a come-from-behind victory.
I know, I was watching and I thought, you know what, we deserve to win the games, and it was good to see Annalee McKee, be the difference with her 2 crucial goals. So watching the girls on the live stream down at the hangar, I would have been there, but... Again, had to run those Eastern Beach Hills, Lingy.
Good work. Pre-season starts officially in about a week's time for you, Meg.
It starts that's exactly right, about a week. So it's next Monday, the 29th, that we'll officially be back together. Obviously, we've been training hard most days a week and getting in good nick before a sort of long 14-week block. So
life's busy for you at the moment.
Mate, it was a busy weekend. I was all over the place. And do you know what? Who can help with that? Morris can help with that. Life is busy enough without more life admin. That's why Morris is now bringing their personal approach to personal finance. Their team is here to help you finance your next lifestyle asset with their free person-to-person service designed to find a finance deal that works best for you. Call Morris today on 1300 4MORRIS or head to morrisfinance.com.au, which is where I'll be going, considering how chock-a-block I was.
Yes, absolutely. Busy life. So we're going to let you take a break before,
I need it.
Before we bombard both you and me with some of our wonderful listener questions. So let's take a break. Back shortly. Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell, the official Geelong Cats podcast. We are brought to you by Morris. We appreciate their support. We're going to get to some questions now, Meg.
Let's do it. Hard hitting.
Yep. Win, lose or draw. We always take the questions. We love people sending them in. Please keep them coming so we can get to as many as we possibly can. This one's from Simon. It's really good timing given Jack Henry's return to the team, and great to see him back. Love to hear how you both see Jack Henry's career playing out. When it's all said and done, will we remember him as a defender, or will we see him move into a more permanent role forward as the Cats list evolves?
Oh, Simon. Too early for these hard hitters.
There's a person with the number 46 that springs to mind. The versatility of a player and that how important that is to a team.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying Jack's going to be blitz, but Jack has that incredible versatility.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to the athletes out there, both from a super athletic, from an athletic background. Jack, I don't know if Jack works with Anula, or had grow up working with Anula, who's our S&C coach. I'm not sure if she's a podcast listener, so shout out to Nules if she's listening in. So, you know, good fundamentals on the movement holds you in good stead all over the ground. But I am partial to him as a defender, probably because I'm a defender myself, and I think he was probably critically underrated in that role because, you know, he's played there the last couple of years when Tom Stewart's been the best one in the game. But versatility is where it's at. I mean, how good to be able to swing forward. We all joke about it. Swing forward when needed and kick too. His aerial prowess is good, and I thought that came back later into the game on the weekend. He sort of, the way he marked that the one that he before his second goal, just shows what a threat he is, and he's also so dynamic at ground level. So again, I'm very good at not giving a direct answer. What do you think?
I land as we will remember him, Simon, as a defender. I'm with you on that one. I think once that defence settles again, the key pillars of that defence are Sam De Koning, obviously, Jack Henry, and Tom Stewart's ability to be that whatever we need him to be defender. Tom Stewart isn't just an intercept defender. He's not just a rebound defender. He can play one-on-one against the best of them as well. He's obviously the ultimate star of that group, but I think those three in particular work really well together. With Jake Kolodjasny playing a great role, with Jed Buse playing a fantastic role.
With Guthrie,
Zach Guthrie's ability now one-on-one, you just trust him all the way. You can push a Mark O'Connor, Zach Tui, Mitch Duncan through there at different times, so you can give different looks depending on what you're trying to achieve out of that back line. But I still think Jack Henry makes up one of those key pillars.
I agree.
Of that defence. Thanks for your question, Simon. Great question. This one's from Chris, and it's to you, Meg.
Hey, Chris.
It's good I get to sit back and just relax now.
Yeah.
How excited are you for pre-season starting, and what can we expect from the team this year?
Chris, sweet relief from hard hitting, because that one's an easy one to answer. Pretty pumped. I think the break this time has felt long after having the double season last year, and the trajectory that we're on. It's never nice ending a season with a however many point loss on elimination final night. So a 2-point loss of being reminded from off camera.
Ouch.
Ouch. To North. Ugh. Anyway, so plenty to keep us motivated over the off-season. We've had some, great new recruits come in. Actually, speaking of, I've been saying I'll give her a shout-out. Kate Spud Sermon, huge fan of the pod, huge fan of the Cats growing up. She moved to Geelong last week, so she's here. She's joined us for all the pre-season running and skills, and, lots of us, I'll include myself, I feel like we're in good nick at the moment and are ready to attack what is quite a long pre-season and get our game in great working order, because unlike the men's game, we don't have a lot of time not to get it right at the start. So we've got to be on come the first weekend of September.
Have you had a little peek at what the program looks like? Is it the type of one that day one, bang, you're into it, or is there a little week or two slow build?
No, well, they always want to look after us, but the slow build stuff has hopefully been happening already, and on a technicality, they've opened up. The first 2 weeks are usually in induction period in the AFLW program, but I think the AFL has said you go hell for leather from day one this year. So that'll be next week for us. We've already done, you get your sort of testing and stuff out of the way, and work hard.
We might just sit up here where we record this podcast, grab some popcorn, and just sit and watch you do that first training session, Meg, and
no worries. I'll
maybe
be
yell
there.
out some advice. And
You'll be like steaming down that far wing, doing my 200s.
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful. No, hopefully it goes very, very well on a serious note. Ez asked this question. I'd love to see more of Jezza in the midfield. With Jack Henry back, is that possible? As I think in the previous answer, I prefer and want Jack Henry ultimately to play as a defender, which doesn't mean Jez gets freed up.
Yeah.
I think Jezza at his absolute best, which we've seen this year, is as a forward. Do your work in the forward half of the ground, and then in the moments that he senses, and Chris Scott senses, push into a centre bounce, or maybe just float up the ground and maybe behind the ball for a minute or two.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you want Jeremy Cameron getting the ball, if not inside 50, kicking it inside 50, because of how good he is. I mean, isn't it funny what a few goals he kicked 0 goals for on the
Yeah.
weekend. So you go, Jez probably got beaten. He kicks 4 goals straight.
Yeah,
It's Jez dominant again on his
Yeah.
way to 100. It's not like he quickly dropped out of form because he was goalless on the weekend.
Yeah.
He is still just the ultimate threat in the competition.
Yeah, he is, and I agree with you. I like him having the shots on goal, and I sort of think that midfield when needed stuff is icing when, you know, the system's going really well, people are playing well, and we just need something to get us over the line in a big game. Not sort of that searching. I don't think it's a response to the team's lost 2 in a row. We better get Jez in the midfield. I think it's let's get him kicking it through the big sticks and get other people getting it to him.
And our midfield depth is getting tested with Tanner Bruin stepping up and maybe not exactly this week that's just gone, but certainly in the previous 2 weeks, Max Holmes continuing to step up and all of that. Then you add the Dangerfield Guthrie coming back into the team. I think that midfield goes back to being one of the very best in the competition. As you said, with then Jez pinch hitting at the right moments. Nice little strength to have.
Yeah, you can't blame Ez for the question because that play down the wing when that enormous handball, I actually didn't catch the disposal. I turned at the telly and Brad Close received the ball and he played on. I was like, what are you doing?
You assumed it was a kick.
Because I assumed it was a kick. I was like, what do you go back once he's then kicked it to, was it Hawk? No,
I think Hawk got the goal.
Kicked the goal.
Yep.
They played the full Jez Cameron play back and I thought, all righto.
Yeah.
just launched a 35-metre into the slot handball, so.
Yes, no, fair question, Ez. We love the question. Please keep thinking like that. Keep sending them in. Cooper's got this one. Who were your inspirations growing up? You just cringed when you said North Melbourne beat you in that final last year because you were a North Melbourne fan growing up.
Yeah, I was.
Were your inspirations North Melbourne based? Were they non-football based? What were they?
No, they were probably non-football based. I was a huge tennis fan and tennis player. So when I was really young, I loved Martina Hingis. Then I loved Kim Clijsters. And then I loved Roger Federer. And that love is a lasting love.
Fair.
So in a sporting sense, you know, you looked at that and tennis was a sport that was seemingly and is leading the way in a lot of ways for equality, I guess, and women in sport. So I looked to them with sport, and then increasingly, I think as you get older, you just look to people in your personal life, whether it's your parents or you know, I've certainly grown up by the time I had footy teammates, but I look now and I think I don't have to look too far to find inspiration. I don't have to look to people on the telly. You've got everyone around. But those were my keys when I was younger. How about you?
Yeah, for me, it was strange. I mean, I had my favourites in, I loved cricket, and it was, Dean Jones or Matthew Hayden or these types of Shane Warne. I loved footy, of course, so it was Gary Senior and Bairstow and Hockey and Couch and all those incredible Cats players. But like for inspiration, mine were personal ones, and it was mum and dad. Yeah. And I probably didn't fully appreciate. You never do when you're a buff-headed teenager. But like dad had a serious workplace accident when he was 19. Wow. Lost a hand in a workplace accident, and continued after that to play cricket for 25 years by teaching himself to bowl left-handed and play and be able to bat. Had a contraption that helped him. Mm-hmm. Still plays golf to this day better than I do. Yeah. Just an incredible person. Now I look back and I think, well, I reckon I learned a fair bit from his resilience, his positivity, his incredible work ethic. He was an apprentice butcher when the accident happened. Yeah. He went back to school and did an accounting degree and worked in management as the years went by. I was like, at 19 years of age, I can't comprehend that happening to me. Yeah. He was a active, crazy, sporty kid like I was as well. And then my mum was a palliative care nurse for 35 years. What she must have had to go through in her work, but then to come home the most caring, loving, happy, positive person. A number of people who still stop me in the street and they start with, your mum nursed my such and such, my father, my father-in-law, whatever it might be. And my initial reaction is, I'm so sorry because I know how it ended. And no, they would say, no, but your mum was just the
Makes
most
all the
incredible
difference, yeah.
experience. She's the most wonderful person. She made it so good for our family. So having those two people as my ultimate role models, it probably had to soak in via osmosis a fair bit because I probably didn't listen half the time initially, but I had some pretty inspirational people right there with me in the family home.
That's good. That's great to hear. I'm sure your boys will have the same answer when they're our age.
Oh, no
Maybe
way,
not right now, but
they don't listen
takes
to
a
a word
while.
I say.
I tell you what, I got to my mid-20s and I was like, I genuinely can't believe Mum had the capacity to give us something different to eat every night. It's just the little things you go, oh my God, the emotional load that takes. Shout out to the mums.
I'm not sure we're achieving that at home right now for our kids. So well done to your mum. No, really appreciate the question, Cooper. That's a good one. Keep them coming in. Anyone who's keen to send them in, I'll continue as best I can to get to as many questions every single week. We love hearing from you. We love interacting as best we can because we love bringing this podcast to you. We better finish up. Before we do, though, you mentioned Morris is a supporter of this podcast. For years, Morris has been supporting businesses and the community to generate success together. Now they are bringing their personal approach to personal finance. Cars, boats, caravans, motorbikes, jet skis, whatever it is you've got, they are all about getting you out there living life. Let their team of finance specialists take on the life admin of arranging your finance so you can get on with life. Call Morris today on 1300 4MORRIS or head to morrisfinance.com.au. Meg, we better get out of here.
Let's get out. Let's get going.
Yeah, 2 losses in a row. We need a win. We want to win, and I'm sure it's coming this week. Saturday afternoon, 4:40.
Yep, right here. I think it's 4:40.
I'm going to check that right as we're continuing to speak right now. It could be 4:35.
We live here, so we'll catch the game at some point.
But a lot happening. 4:35 it is, so don't be 5 minutes late for the bounce. 4:35 at GMHBA Stadium.
Get here early for the the welcome to country and all the things. So
yep, there'll be a fantastic celebration going on right around the game. You spoke about the jumper a little bit earlier that the players will be wearing. We've seen the footies, we've seen the logos on the ground. It's a fantastic celebration these 2 weeks of Sir Doug Nicholls Round. And hopefully, next week on the podcast, Meg, we are celebrating a Cats win.
Hopefully. I'm more confident than hopefully.
Excellent. Sounds good. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week.